Hey guys, John here. So this is kind of more a little bit of a discussion video, I suppose. So every time I kind of hear the concept come up, what's your desert island synth or pick three synthesizers, I kind of like to think about that for a little minute and see what would I actually pick, right? If they say what's the desert island, right? What's the only synthesizer you have for the rest of your life that you can only use that one and nothing else? So you kind of think about that and you're like, well, okay, what kind of synthesis do I want to do? Am I more of an FM guy? Do I really like using wavetables? Do I really like to dive into additive synthesis or really just a main subtractive synthesizer? Do you want a digital sound? Do you want an analog sound? What's your kind of thing, right? So I kind of like all of them for the most part. But then you think, okay, well, if I had picked this one, then I won't have access to this one. So I've kind of just loaded up a couple ones that I've really liked recently. And it's no secret that I am in love with Pigments. This thing is just amazing. One of my favorite synths out there, honestly, because the way I describe this thing for really, it's good for anybody who's new to sound design or new to synthesizers, or someone who's just been doing it a long time and just loves the easy workflow, seeing what you can do. Because the visual aspect, first of all, is really nice. This UI is it's colorful. You kind of just know the colors. Like I already obviously know in my head that anything, like a function is going to be green, the LFOs are yellow, envelopes are orange, stuff like that. Like you kind of just know by the colors now, and it kind of just makes a lot of sense. And then we have our effects, right? We have a lot of different steps to choose from. All these effects banks, we have send, so it kind of covers a lot of stuff. It has macros, which I really wish in an update we were able to have more macros. Maybe they could be like a page 2 or something like that. That would be really cool. Or for example, I've always liked the thought of, what was it, where we can choose if we want our sends to be post or pre effects, something like that, or the different engines to be uh, direct out, right? Because we can go to the utility engine, and a lot of the times I turn on the sub oscillator and I send this direct out, right? Because I don't want the filters or the effects changing the sound. It'd be kind of cool if we could do that for the engines themselves. That would be kind of cool, or something parallel maybe. But anyway, kind of getting a little off topic there. Pigments is really great for like what I said. And I was like, I think this could be a desert island synth. But then I think to myself, okay, well, what about Diva though? That's a really good synth and it sounds really nice. And it's hard to make a bad patch out of Diva, which is the one I have over here, right? It's very simplistic. We have a lot of synthesizers in one, right, with all the different panels. And we, if we want Moog oscillators with an MS-20 filter, we can totally do that, or change out our envelopes. It's really nice. The effects are cool. You only have 2 slots, which is a little bit limiting, but it's also kind of a nice restrictive way. So we don't just have a bajillion effects and it kind of just gets washed out. It's easier to target the kind of sound, right? So there's that kind of concept. It does use a lot of CPU, so there's that. But I guess if you just have one synth on the desert, then I guess CPU is probably not even really an option. You probably wouldn't even have to put on multi-core because that's the only one you got. So there was that thought, right? I'm like, okay, maybe if I was doing 3, I definitely want to have Diva in there. And then I've really been a big fan of Icarus recently. It's one of those synths where it's like you can do everything in it, and it's like it's so colorful. It's nice. It has a huge screen, which I really like. Sometimes that's one of my issues, I guess, with older plugins, right? You can't resize the screen, and it's so tiny and it's hard to see, and it becomes a little less fun and intuitive to use, right? This one has a lot of cool filters in it, and it looks nice. There's got to be something about the visual aspect, right? So there's that there, and then there's the trusty old Hive, right? So this guy is great on CPU. It sounds good. You have wavetables. You have quite a lot of options in front of you that you can just quickly turn. There's not a lot of hidden pages in that. And the step sequencer, or not, the shape sequencer makes a lot of cool stuff. You have the sequencer, you have an ARP, and it's pretty nice. And you have your effects that you can reorder, and they all sound really nice. And it's easy and intuitive on the front page. But then if you want to get into really crazy stuff, there's options like that to do so. You have some interesting filters, especially the dissonant, the comb, and the reverb ones. The sideband's really cool as well. But yeah, you have these kind of special filters, which are a lot of fun. So there's that aspect to it. Then you have the different synth engines, right? You can make a patch and you can change it to the clean engine or the dirty engine and kind of see how your patch changes the sound. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, okay, well, this one obviously can't do everything. So what about our trusty old Falcon, right? Which can do just about everything. I mean, this thing is a monster of a synthesizer. And really, I mean, if you have some crazy idea of an instrument or something you'd like to make, you can do it. And that was a good way that I forget where I read it, maybe on Reddit. That's funny. But yeah, I read basically that in synthesizers, we make patches or presets, right? And then they said kind of the difference with Falcon is that you create instruments, and that's kind of a cool way to think about that. You can really just think about what you want to make. You can make it a whole synth instrument, and then you can have multi samples in there on different velocities. It gets deep. Basically, long story short, if you want all your oscillators, how many oscillators you want, it really just depends on what you're making. So that's really cool. You have a lot of effects. A lot of the scripts are really cool, and the macros. I mean, you can really do whatever you want, as many as you want, right? Buttons, sliders, all that stuff. So that's really cool. And then I look at my list, I'm like, oh God, but I love all my children, right? They're perfect for everything. You know, if you want a nice acid sound, you can dial up the one that just came out from Arturia. That one's really cool. So it's really hard to decide, and I don't think I've really actually come to that. So the whole question or point of this video is, what would you choose, and what's your favorite one, right? Or your favorite three, I guess, because it's kind of hard to limit ourselves to one. So really, what's your favorite three synthesizers that you kind of just use in every session? Because I use a lot of them, mostly all of them, right? Not only just on the channel, but in a lot of my own stuff. There's times where I'm like, oh, I want to bring out the SEM, or maybe I want to bring out the Prophet, but maybe I want to try the other revision that the one from Yuhi, right? The Reaper 1 or the Reaper 5 or something like that. And then I'm like, oh yeah, but what about Zebra HC? That one's actually really cool. And then I kind of just keep going to things, and I'm like, oh, let me check out Filterscape. That's really cool as well. And then you just keep bouncing. You kind of go through a lot of crazy stuff, and yeah. And then Surge is free and it's really cool. And I was actually kind of blown away trying out that synthesizer. It sounds really good. So yeah, I guess the point is, what's your first favorite three? And yeah, I'm curious about that. So yeah, let's start a discussion. And I'm kind of curious what you guys are using out there. What's your favorite ones, or what do you feel more comfortable in, and what do you think sounds the best to you? So yeah, that's the question for you. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to reading what you say, your thoughts. See you in the next video.